Ever since the arrest of Sean Combs, popularly known as P Diddy, his name even sounds his name even sounds funny to say now because of the whole no Diddy trend. Anyway, there's been a lot of speculation, rumors about his crimes and the nature of them. Obviously, a lot of us are on the outside looking in on those crimes. Some of them we do know about, like domestic abuse and domestic violence and things like that. But more generally, the big scandal is the sex parties, and around that, there's been a lot of misinformation, disinformation, whatever you want to call it. And the more stuff starts to come out, the more we have to have, we start to have victims, alleged victims, people coming out making all sorts of sensational claims about it. And I posted this tweet you can see behind me, I think 3 weeks ago or so now, when the initial arrest story broke, which I tried to predict what was going to happen. And so far, I think it's worth talking about how those predictions are actually kind of prescient and accurate. Now, my prediction around what will happen with the Diddy case was around how the police and the investigators are going to behave. But I think this also applies more generally to the kind of news we're going to see coming out about it from different associates and former friends and business partners and all the people who claim to have massive insight into all the secret parties and all the things that were happening. But we will see what happens in terms of the veracity of their claims. So obviously we had the initial 1000 baby oil story, which obviously was, sensational and clearly false. But it did the rounds on social media, and it drove a lot of public interest into the case. And now we had more recently on UK TV someone by the name of Jaguar Wright, who seems to be, seems to have been embroiled in those circles, and I don't know, seems to know a lot about what was going on at the time. So she's been on the scene for a while, talking about all these crimes and how everything will be exposed soon. And so she went on Piers Morgan and did an interview. I don't know how long it was for, but she was making a lot of claims around other actors and other famous people that are going to be implicated in the impending massive scandal.
How does Jay-Z sit down with Gayle King and she not ask him one question about the intersection between him and Aaliyah and Robert Kelly? This is insane that people keep refusing to see what's right there. If the Me Too movement were real, why aren't they speaking now? They've also been very quiet in this time of the diddler's downfall.
Jaguar.
And so that was a section of interview with Piers Morgan. And as you can see, I think it fits very nicely with the first prediction I made there, which is around the fact that we're going to see a lot of sensational claims. What's going to happen? My prediction with that is that this is going to lead very easily to a mistrial, because if you're someone like P Diddy right now, sitting in prison awaiting trial, and your defense is working around the clock to try and present evidence that exonerates you, a lot of people actually don't even remember or even know about what the actual three charges against him are. I'll probably do a video on that, maybe as a follow up to this one. But those charges are not to do with any of these sensational claims. Now they might tangentially relate to them, but if you're a defense lawyer, all these claims make it very easy for you to make a case that the jury's mind has been poisoned by all this false information, because a lot of these will be stuff that's easily disproven. And once you go out there and say essentially everything's a conspiracy against me because these people are out to get me, this is exactly how you get a mistrial. And because of the perceived or actual badness of this person, a lot of people are predisposed to believe stuff that is clearly false anyway. So that was a good example, was the baby oil story, which made no sense at all in the first place, but because people wanted to believe the worst about this case, they were very easily duped by it. And these are the kind of things that the defense is going to make a point that makes it very difficult to select a fair and unbiased jury, because the charges will probably not relate to anything to do with this. Is it very likely that people in these positions are able to command, and control, a vast network of people to do whatever they want? Probably true. Did they have parties that involved, sex and drugs and alcohol? Probably true. How much of that was coerced by this person and how much of that was willingly, done or involved other people doing coercion? If you have a party of, I don't know, 300 people, how much control do you have over every single interaction happening between these people? These are things that the jury is actually going to consider, but the public is not really thinking about right now. It's very easy to paint a picture of this guy was a mastermind behind all this, dastardly and evil acts. But the way you do that, when you start sensationalizing all the details like this, the case is going to very quickly collapse, because when you start to boil it down to, the actual details of it, you start to realize that in the actual court case, there was actually nothing there. And so what you see is if this does result in a mistrial, everyone will be like, this is the evidence for why the judicial system doesn't work. This guy, there was so much evidence against him. We knew that he was involved in this, pedophile sex ring. We knew that he was trafficking children across the state lines. All the things that's come out that were clearly never true, but were being pushed by people who, for some reason, I guess I don't know if you got paid to be on this show, but it definitely doesn't help. Doesn't hurt our publicity. All of those things are going to collapse when competent people actually start to go through them and people that actually have the rest of the facts. And so I think so far so good in terms of my prediction on what's going to happen with the case. We'll wait and see what happens next. Again, I'm going to try and do a video on the actual charges in the case just to provide some clarity around that, because you know what usually happens with a lot of these cases is that what the case is about in court is not really what's being presented on social media, because I guess social media has a mind of its own. So when you bring a case in court that's actually very narrow and focuses on what you can actually allege to be a crime, having sex parties is probably not a crime. Inviting people to your sex parties is probably not a crime. People doing drugs in your sex party, I don't know how the law stands on who bears responsibility for that. But these are the kind of actual details that are going to be relevant in any kind of trial. And when you have sensational claims like this, nothing can result in a hung jury and therefore a mistrial more than nonsense like this that turns out to be clearly false by people who are they've lost their minds. And so on that note, I'll leave that one there. Stay tuned and try and subscribe and follow me on all the relevant platforms, especially YouTube. I'm seeing a lot of great growth on that platform there. That's where I post my full long form videos. So if you want to see everything I've said unedited and uncut, please do check out my YouTube and subscribe for the the next videos. I'm going to do a video on the actual cases and the specifics of those cases. So again, if you're following my channel, you stay informed on what's actually going on, and you're seeing beyond the rhetoric and the dumb sensational stories like baby oil and all those kind of nonsense that's being placed on social media. Thank you for watching, and I'll speak to you guys on the next episode of What and What Weekly.